Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business Central Add-on Spotlight Series. I'm Emily, a marketing specialist at Savantis Technologies. Today, we're excited to be joined by Bryan and Karya from Insight Software to discuss and demo Jet Reports and Jet Analytics. Just a few housekeeping items before we dive in. So we encourage you to ask all the questions that you have. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A button. You can drop all your questions there. Karya and Bryan will be sure to address them during the webinar and near the end as well. We'll also be using the polling feature in Zoom to ask you some questions throughout the webinar. If you haven't encountered that before, it's very easy to use and we'll announce when the polls are coming. Finally, we are going to record this webinar and we're going to send you the recording via email within 2 business days. So it's going to be available to you to rewatch and share as much as you'd like. And it's also going to be on YouTube. So look there as well. All right. So I am going to hand it right over to Bryan. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, Emily. So hello, everyone. As Emily just expressed, right, thank you for taking the time today to tune in. As I go through a high-level overview of how you all can future-proof your reporting process with our Microsoft Dynamics purpose-built reporting tool, Jet Reports and Jet Analytics. So to the next slide. But before we get into it, everyone, I'd like to take a moment to formally introduce myself. My name is Bryan Reed. I'm a channel manager on the Jet team here at Insight Software. And again, as you've already figured, right, I'll be your presenter today for future-proofing your reporting with Jet Reports and Jet Analytics. I've been with Insight Software for about 1.5 years now, maybe about 1 year and 9 months now. I also live in the most charismatic place in the South, right, New Orleans, Louisiana, where the food is absolutely amazing. And on the weekends, I'm also a trombonist, right? I'm a musician, so I really, really love being able to express that habit during the weekend in my leisure time. So enough about myself. I want to take the time, everyone, to give us an introduction to our organization so that you can understand our mission and essentially why we're here today. So as a quick overview of Insight Software, our solutions are purpose-built to help CFOs and finance teams make sense of your data, right? And our goal there is to tackle that complicated task of getting your enterprise data into the systems that all finance teams love, which is Excel. And this is so that everyone, you can improve data transparency and of course, make more informed business decisions, right? As we can see here on the slide, we have a global presence of over 500,000 daily users, and everyone, our solutions are compatible with over 150 ERP systems, right? Now, for Microsoft Dynamics, that's going to be our Jet Suite application. So today, in our session today with Jet, I'll give you a high-level overview for what some of these tools look like in action, right? We'll build some reports from scratch, both financial and operational. We'll take some time to look at our pre-built reports that come ready to go out of the box with Jet. And then we're going to have some poll questions throughout our session today because I would absolutely love your feedback. But we'll also have our Q&A box, as Emily mentioned, to where you can ask any questions throughout the presentation as we go through. Again, we have both Emily here and to acknowledge those questions, and my senior solutions engineer, Karya Collins, here to answer those questions as we go through. And of course, we're going to open up the chat box for Q&A for the last few minutes or during the last few minutes of our presentation, because everyone, we want you to leave here today with a really good understanding of how our solution works with your data. So a little about Jet, right? Everyone, it's the most widely used Excel add-in for Microsoft Dynamics users. And the Jet suite of products has lived comfortably in the Dynamics space for the last 20 years or so, right? So that really speaks to why it is indeed that go-to application for Dynamics users to get the most out of your data. And again, right, make better data-driven decisions. So essentially, everyone, what we focused on with Jet here was helping end users like yourself get your information out of your database or technology stack and into an end user friendly tool, right? And I like to mention that we do so in a way that's controlled, governed, and secure so that you can guarantee that the right people are seeing the right information in the right way at the right time. Now, that can be in Microsoft Excel, right? The most commonly used office productivity software that we know, or it can also be used to help deploy data visualization tools like Power BI, in which we'll get into that down the line shortly. So why do businesses invest in Jet? Well, everyone, I like to say that it's simple, right? Jet was designed for Dynamics users again to have that optimized reporting in Excel, that tool that's native and comfortable to report writers like yourselves, so that you can accomplish what I like to call big picture goals, right? And everyone, these can include essentially some of these points that we see here on the screen, right? Improving working capital management, increasing revenue, managing risk, staying in compliance, right? These are all things that we can do with that accurate and detailed reporting, right? So essentially, everyone, Jet provides that investment that keeps your reporting streamlined, efficient, and accurate, right? And let's talk about some companies that are taking that approach. This is just a quick end user slide of some of our larger name clients, right, and the different verticals that they service. And so we have manufacturing, distribution, right, clients in professional service, retail, so on and so forth. But just to point out some household names, right, we have AT&T, we have Domino's. I call them frequently on the weekend. We have Pioneer up here somewhere for audio, right? So just different some of our larger name companies that are having some really great success with using Jet reports and Jet analytics. So, right, what we're all curious of, what does the Jet Suite consist of? So, everyone, we have two avenues of reporting. For starters, we have Jet Reports. So, this is our real-time reporting tool that lives in Excel and connects directly to your ERP so that you can get all of that financial and operational data that you need, importantly, in the format that you want, right? This lets you quickly and easily build those reports directly in Excel and then refresh those reports to pull in that latest data. And everyone, the best out of the box feature with this tool, aside from pulling data directly from your ERP and into Excel and having that data easily exposed, right? This is going to be the pre-built reports. And then also because we're in Excel, you just have those different benefits of eliminating the manual data dumps and the manual manipulations, right? Just a lot of different things that we know to be time consuming and prone to error. Moving forward, we have Analytics. So everyone, this is our flagship application. This is our full business intelligence solution that comes in the form of a pre-built data warehouse and cubes. And cubes, this enables for optimized data for reporting across your full technology stack, everyone. So the real power of this tool is realized whenever you're creating complex reports or even dashboards, and you can also build reports against multiple databases, right? And this is because, of course, right, a lot of companies are pulling data from more than one source these days as we grow and as we take on different BI projects like migrating it. Whenever you're tying together multiple tables in one report, whenever you're using complex KPIs and matrices, right? I can go through a list of benefits, but essentially, right, this provides that accurate and governed data for a source of one truth. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, it can also be used as a data visualization tool, or it helps deploy data visualization applications like Power BI. And essentially with that, everyone, although we're going to get it into a bit further down the line, but essentially with that, it just eliminates the need to understand the underlying data structure and always having to rely on IT, right? And in addition to that, with Jet Analytics, we have our data warehouse automation tool called the Jet Data Manager. And this tool makes it easy to connect all of that information and helps maintain a complete data warehouse solution with as little effort as possible, right? So the real value add here is that we have built that pre-built project that comes out of the box designed specifically for Dynamics users. And then everyone, to complete out our Jet suite right here to the right, we've got BizView budgeting and planning. And everyone, this is our advanced budgeting and planning tool that enhances workflows and lets you build business insights into your planning process. We will not be focusing on this much today, but for our audience members, if you saw this and this raised some particular interest about your budgeting and planning process, just know that we do have a very comprehensive solution. And I'll be giving my contact information at the end of this presentation. So you'll be able to reach out to me or reach out to Emily or anyone on the Savantis team to kind of start up that evaluation if need be, if you desire. So now I actually want to hop out of our PowerPoint for a second, and I want to bring up into our pre-built reports, right? We're going to get into some of the products and tools and features of Jet, and we're going to start with Jet reports. So for starters, everyone, I want to bring up this site, right? This is our Insight software site. These are our sample reports. And we have a library of about 85 pre-built reports and counting that come out of the box ready to go. That you simply just have to customize, match some of the fields up, and then essentially just kind of refresh and pull in that latest data, everyone. You can easily go to insightsoftware.com. and you can scroll all the way down. You can go to sample reports here, and it's going to bring you to this exact page. And then we can go through and filter the product. I'm already pre-filtered for Jet. You can go through here if you want to get more nuance with your filters, of course, and pre-filter or select for a specific ERP instance. But essentially, everyone, again, you simply just have to download these. These are completely modifiable, completely customizable. And one thing I'll mention is if that information, right, if all your data is living in your ERP instance, whether that be GP, NAV, BC, Jet's going to be able to go through there and get it for you and expose it. And the pre-built reports are a very, very great start for a lot of our end users that are just coming on board and want something that's dynamic and out of the box and ready to go. And again, these are completely modifiable, completely customizable as well. So I actually want to take the time to show us a couple of these. And the first one that I'm going to bring up, this one's just going to be a consolidated P&L. And before we actually kind of dive deep into this report a bit, I'm going to direct our attention to the Jet add-on ribbon, and we're going to talk about how Jet fits comfortably into Excel. So as I mentioned, everyone, right, we're in Excel, so we don't hijack any of Excel's native functionality, right? We literally just equip you with more tools to build out these reports dynamically and effectively in a place that's comfortable for you, right? So Jet is an add-on, an Excel add-on into your local machine, so there's no need for any server space when you're dealing with Jet reports. But once you get this installed, you're going to have some key features, right? So let's go here and go from left to right. So starting here, we have our design button. This puts a report in design mode. This current report is in design mode. As we see when we're in design mode, we have our options tab here that essentially gives us the foundation of this report, right? You can go through and make your modifications here. You have your report kind of pre-built makeups here. And then, of course, we don't leave you hanging, right? Aside from having different trainings that you can take, we also give you every report, pre-built report, this README tab that just takes you through some steps to kind of not build or modify this report alone. But again, we also offer inclusive training sessions to kind of help you really get familiar with the actual product, although you all are probably very familiar working with Excel. So back to the Jet add-on ribbon. So again, this report's in design mode. Our design button is set for our designed named user license. And everyone, that's going to be the person that essentially has all autonomy through the product, right? You're going to be the person that's going to be able to go through and modify the pre-built, build out manually, set filters for this report. Again, you have all autonomy through the product. So you are essentially the designer, right? The key person. And then as we move forward, once we have our report designed and modified, we can run a report, right? And this report is usually for our viewer named license user. And that viewer person is going to be able to run a report. You can run three of which ways. You can run up front, you can run against cache, you can run in the background. And more importantly, once you run a report, you can also drill down. And that's also going to be a very important feature for that viewer license as well, right? Of course, it's going to be already with the designer license, but more importantly, for anyone that you have that you want to kind of filter through and drill down and get those underlying transactions, that person will indeed be a viewer. And then as we go through, we have our build out tools, everyone. We have different tools in your tool belt, right? We have the NL function. We have the fast financial features. I'll talk about this later. Report options, report wizard. You'll see me use that one later as well. Browser, sorry, snippet, pivot table. So again, just different tools in your tool belt that you have to go through and build out effective reports and dashboards. And then as we move forward, we have our dissemination methods here. We have the complementary Jet Hub. And everyone, this is an online repository to where you can schedule your reports to be uploaded into the Jet Hub, and they can also be scheduled to be ran and disseminated into the proper hands, right? And the only thing that anyone would need to have access to this particular portal is a company domain email address, right? So anyone can access this on any handheld web device. And then if you just so happen to not get the Jet Hub and running, because the Jet Hub does indeed require a little server space, we also have the schedule, right? And the schedule lets you do the exact same, right? You can schedule these reports to be disseminated. This is also native to SharePoint, OneDrive, email, PDF file, Excel file, right? So many different ways you can get these reports to the right hands at the right time with the right information. And then we have our settings, right? And this is very important because this is what's going to give us that direct connectivity, right? With those purpose-built connectors with JET reports. So I have multiple instances in my demo environment, but of course you can have your BC environment, your GP environment, your nav environment. Again, many different environments there to kind of maneuver through with that direct connection. And then as we go through as well, we can drop down here and we can see I have different companies here. Now, I like to also mention that I have 2 companies here, right? But this can be 2, 4, 20, essentially however many you have in your environment, right? Those are going to be exposed for you. And then we have our help options here. And this is going to be important for anything new that's coming down the pipeline when it comes to product information. So actually, and then so now I want to mention that you see me exiting out of that actual report. You simply just have to give those reports a name and give those a home, right? So any modifications that you make, you don't have to remodify or readjust or rebuild. Again, you just have to name that report, give that report a home, and then you can repull and then you can continue moving forward from there. So let's actually go through and run this report now. So everyone, whenever I run a report, my report filters are going to come up. Again, this is a pre-built report, so these filters are pre-modified, but you can go through and you can modify these as well. You can set more nuanced filters with our filter options here and our filter operators. And then again, these are completely modifiable and customizable through our report options section here. So let's go through and run this report. And then we're going to see Jet do that lifting for me. So now, everyone, I have this report ran, right? I have my full out view, and then I have this report broken out by company. So I have my UK company, and then I have my USA company. And more importantly, this report gets into my global dimension 1, which for me, it's my departments here, right? And then again, I have that consolidated view, which of course gives me that conversion metric so I can get that consolidated figure. But more importantly, I want to take the time to go through our drill down feature as well. And whenever you're drilling down to get to an underlying transaction, everyone, you can do 2 of which ways. You can click here in a cell and click this gray drop down here. Or again, as we saw in the jet ribbon, we can go here and click the drill down button there. So we're going to go find one of these figures, and then we're going to click into it. And it's going to bring up what's called, everyone, the grid view. And of course, the grid view is going to be native to Excel. And it's going to pull up all of our underlying transactions if they live there, right? So if you had a figure that had more transactions there, of course, those will reveal themselves. But more importantly, you can modify this and regroup this for consumption as you see fit. And if you had further underlying transactions here, you can drill down even further. And then you can also export this information to its own Excel sheet for consumption and dissemination as well. And I also like to mention that, especially for my BC users out there, you actually get 2 drill down views. I don't have the actual view in my demo environment, but you also get the drill down view to where you can go back to your online BC instance. So let's say you had any invoices or PDFs or that you wanted to grab along that's relative to that transaction, you can go back and sort out that information as well with a different view for the drill down. So you'll have 2 views to get that underlying transactional information. So everyone, that's this consolidated P&L. I am again going to close out this report. And then I want to show us one more before we get into some build outs here. And I like to show this report because this report really does a great job of just showing how technically advanced you can get whenever building out a report in Jet Report specifically and in Excel. And this is just going to be a company overview, right? And of course, any pre-built report that you see can be recreated as well. But again, this one just does a really great job with the visuals here and just showing how advanced you can get with Jet, right? You have your snapshot of your P&L, your snapshot of your key KPIs, your snapshot of your cash flow, and so on and so forth. So again, this is just one that really shows how advanced you can get with Jet. So now we're going to go through and we're going to do some build outs here. And the first tool that I'm going to use, everyone, it's going to be one that I mentioned earlier, right? The Fast Financials tool. And everyone, this is going to be the quickest and easiest way to get your financial information out of your system and into Excel, right? So that you can start to configure that information and get the report that you want. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to use the Fast Financials tool to build out a P&L. So everyone, this is a live read-in into our GL, right? Anything that updates is going to be updated dynamically here and readily made accessible for you. But importantly, let's go through and start to build out this report and pick our columns and our headers. So I'm going to use name, amount, and budget. I can also use calculated columns as well, like variance and variance percentage. But more importantly, I want to make sure I include those column headers, everyone. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick my relevant accounts, right? So I'm building the P&L. I'm going to start with my revenue accounts. And then I'm going to scroll all the way down. And I'm going to grab everything from there. And from here, everyone, I just can shift, click, and then drag and drop here. And then we're going to see Jet start to do some of that heavy lifting for us, right? It's going to give me everything I need to just go through and just make some simple modifications for this P&L. And then now I have my information I need, right? I can go through and again, I'm in Excel, right? I can go through here. I can make any simple formatting adjustments that I want for consumption of what my team is used to. But more importantly, I have my figures here. And let's give these numbers some context, right? So I am in my demo environment. So I'm going to use 2018 because I know I have good data there. And we're going to start to give these numbers some context, everyone. Here. So now we see those numbers update dynamically for me, right? So of course, since we're in Excel, let's say we wanted to get more of an overview, visionary sense of it. I can go through here and I can start to add in some different formulas, right? So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to put in a quick end of month formula. But everyone, you can do month over month, day over day, year over year, quarter over quarter, however you wish to consume. But for example's sake, we're going to do this month over month. So now, once I copy and paste these columns here, it's going to give me that month over month updated overview, everyone. And I can go through here and I can get a quarter in, some change in, or I can go through here and get 2 quarters in, half the year. And then from here, everyone, I can just go through and give this report some character, right? Go through and make some simple modifications there, add some changes. And I like to mention as well that the first row and column, everyone, is made for JET keywords. The most common are hide and fit. Hide in case there's anything that you kind of wanted to hide in the report once the final production of the report is there. And fit there, of course, so these so this information can be nice and tidy within the cells as we run this report. And then, of course, right, I can take away grid lines. I can add logos. Again, I can get very fancy with building out the final production of this report as you would in Excel normally. So let's go through and run this report. And of course, as I run this report, right, because it's picking up the content that I built this report with, it's going to give me that pre-built filter option. I can go through and I can edit this as well in my report options. And again, I can go through and I can get more nuance with the filters here. And again, this also updates dynamically as well. So let's say we made any changes to our backend environment and we added a global dimension and whatnot. Let's say we had 1 and we added a 2. This is going to be readily made available for you as well. So let's go through and let's run this report. So this report's going to be nice and tidy for me. And just like those pre-built reports, everyone, I can go through here and I can drill down and I can get to the underlying figures of this report or this particular figure here in this report. And it's going to pull up that grid view for me. And it's going to bring me all of those underlying transactions, everyone. So that's our Fast Financials tool. I'm going to move forward with our next example, and I'm going to pull up another fresh Excel sheet. And again, just like I mentioned with the pre-built reports, right, I'm going to exit out this one, but you simply just have to give this report a name, save it and give it a home. So you don't have to rebuild this report or remodify per se. You can kind of pick up where you left off, hence the different run options as well when you're running up front, running against cash or running in the background. So now, everyone, I'm going to draw out a sales report using our report wizards tool. And everyone, this is going to be a great tool for ad hoc reporting, especially if you want to utilize Excel's native groupings functionality. And this is simply just going to be a quick click and go method when you're building out this report. And it's going to expose every single table and those relevant fields to that table. And then you can go through and make some quick customization. So let's go through and build a quick sales report. So for starters here, I have my data source selected. I have my company selected, but more importantly, we get all of those tables exposed, right? And we see some of these tables may have some different names because the beauty of Jet is it simplifies that back-end workflow for you to make it a lot easier to build out here on the front end with the. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to pick my customer table. And I'm going to use that to start to build out this report, right? And again, as I move forward, it's going to expose all of those relative fields for that particular table as well. I can go through and I can select the ones that I commonly use, or the ones that I commonly use, I can save those and go to my store and just go through and make it quickly accessible for me. So I like to use number, name, state, salesperson, sales, and I can maneuver this around here in this section as well. And then we're going to go next, right? So next we're going to add some filtering. And for this report, I want to filter out by state. And I can come here and I can add different filtering options. I can get nuance and I can add select states, or I can leave it as a report option for the report consumer to filter through. And then of course, I want to take advantage of the grouping functionality, right? So I want to group by state as well. Let me go forward. And then I want to sort out my sales. And I want to see those numbers in a descending form, right? I want to see that highest figure first. And then I want to make sure I get the totals for those numbers per state. And then these next two sections, everyone, is just typical housekeeping features, right? I want to make sure I got the format there. I want to make sure I'm utilizing the grouping feature. And then here it's going to give me just a quick overview of what's going to be queried and built out. And then now, right, as far as Jet's concerned, this report is actually built out, everyone. Just like that last report, I can go through here and I can make some simple edits or edit however you please. But more importantly, let's go and run this report. And as I run that report, it's going to give me those filters that I set as I was building out this report. And then we're going to run. And then now I can go through here and I can get those different figures per state. And I can see what salesperson is attached to what particular item line that was sold. So everyone, that's quick operational report using the report wizards tool. And as we can see, right, Jet goes through and writes a report for me. And now I simply have everything that I need, right? And these are just some simple reports here. So I want to take a moment to pause here. So Emily, if you wouldn't mind bringing up that first poll question. And the question, everyone, is, so how do you feel having an advanced dynamic reporting tool like Jet Reports can be a bit different from what you're currently doing now? Please take some time to answer. We'll give about 60 seconds. Going in. I see some that said it would be the same or similar. I'm curious if you guys are already users. All righty. Thank you all for taking the time to answer that poll. This is actually great feedback. So I'm going to stop sharing. So next, everyone, I want to go back to our PowerPoint here. And we're going to get into Analytics a bit. So again, with Analytics, everyone, this is our flagship application, right? This is our full business intelligence solution that comes in the form of a pre-built data warehouse and cubes. And again, those cubes are going to enable for optimized data for reporting across your full technology stack, right? So the real power of this report, the real power of this tool is realized whenever you're, again, creating reports, complex reports, dashboards, and it can also be used to build reports against multiple databases, right? And in addition to that, I want to talk about on these next couple of slides here, how we're going to transition you from that raw data to that optimized data, right? So again, on these next couple of slides, we're going to get into that back office portion of it. So with business intelligence at its core, everyone, that means that presenting data in a way that's actionable, right? So with analytics, we're going to pull that data from your ERP or other data sources if you have them. And then we're going to begin to organize that data in a way that's optimized for reporting, right? So for the end user, you don't have to, again, understand the underlying data schema of your ERP to go through and build out these complex reports or dashboards, right? Because of the way that that data is going to be organized for you. So again, we're going to go from raw data to optimized data whenever we're dealing with analytics. So let's start here with our database. And we know this to be that complex web of tables and fields that have those specific relationships between them. So reporting directly against the database can be somewhat complicated, right? You need to know what table or what table the data lives in and within your database. And it can get even more complicated when you need to report on data from multiple tables in one report, right? So Jets came in and simplified that and made that a lot easier on the end user. So again, starting here with the data source, that data is going to be loaded into the data warehouse here in that second panel, where we see that data is going to be organized by subject matter, tying together that relevant data for us. And then typically, everyone, this is where most BI solutions would stop. But with Jet, we take that level of interactivity a step further with our pre-built cubes here. And out of the box with Jet, we have cubes for things like finance, inventory, purchasing, and sales. And with the cubes, that's where we add in the dimensionality, right? That's what's going to allow you to go in and interact with that data, twist it a bit more, slice it a bit more, dice it a bit more, right? To see essentially what's the most important to you. And everything within the cubes are pre-calculated, right? And that's where that enhanced speed is going to come from. And we can also go in and build any sort of custom calculations or custom KPIs, again, to really ensure that everyone's assessing that one version of the truth. So the real value add here, everyone, is that we were, again, able to develop that comprehensive pre-built project specifically for Dynamics. And with those projects, right, we find that about 80 to 90% even of what a Dynamics user would need for reporting, it's already mapped out within these projects, right? And the other 10, 15% or so is just going to be to come in and make any client specific customizations that are needed to fit within the data warehouse and that massaged, married together data. So this next slide, everyone, I kind of want to give you the what's under the hood sense or the backend workflow, right? So here we have all of your data sources, right? And again, you have your legacy source if you're going through a migration project. You have your CRM if you have multiple data sources, and then again you have your primary Dynamics database instance. We're going to pull all that information into our ETL tool, the Jet Data Manager. And of course, ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. So that's what you see signified here in those first set of arrows, right? That's going to be the extraction of that data. And then we're going to bring you from that raw data to that one unified data set, right? It's going to be that transformation piece here. And that's what you see represented here in this middle transformation piece. And then our last section here, that's where you're going to pin your front end tool to digest this information, right? And it can be any tool that's SQL based, right? It can be Excel or even Power BI. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. So now we're going to hop back into Excel and we're going to build out a report using the cubes. So importantly, I want to make sure I change my data sources. So now I'm not pointing directly at my ERP instance. Now I'm pointing at my cubes now. I'm going to find a solid spot here on my fresh sheet. And then we're going to use pivot table to build out this report. And again, everyone, so out of the box with Jet, again, we have cubes for things like finance, inventory, manufacturing, payables, so on and so forth. But we're going to go through and use our sales cube for this one. So over here to the right, you're going to see a pivot field, right? And that shows the content of essentially what's built in the cube. And inside of the cube, we have our measures, which are going to be signified by the sigma sign here. And then we have our dimensions, and that's going to be everything else, right? That's signified by what I like to call the pad sign there. And everyone, all measures have multiple dimensions pointed at them. So for example, right, a measure of sales. A sales measure can be defined based off cost, average unit of cost, quantity, profit percentage, right? Essentially just a lot of different numbers. And these numbers are nothing more than just that, right? They're dollars, integers, and percentages. So let's go through and build out a report with some of those sales measures. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick sales. I'm going to pick cost. I'm going to pick profit. And I'm going to pick profit percentage. And then now we're going to add some dimensions, right? Dimensions are going to be the way that we look at this data. Again, the way we kind of cut it, the way we slice it, and the way we dice it a bit. So for example, that can be something like location, item, time frame. So let's go through and navigate these sales measures with some dimensions. And I want to go through and I want to pick item category and product group. And then I want to pick some dates. I want to see this over time, right? So now we can get even more filter options in this report by adding in some slicers. So let's go through and add a slicer for location. We can go through and give it a home. And then we're going to come through and add a slicer for my global dimension 1. And again, for me, my global dimension 1 is going to be my departments here. Give it a home. And since we're in Excel, everyone, we can go through and complete this dashboard. And let's go through and we're going to insert a chart, right? No, I can go through and I can pick any chart I want, but we'll go through with the recommended chart here. I'm going to set this here. And now we can see, I can filter through this report. We can see it update for me. We can see that chart update. I can go here. I can get more granular with these numbers, right? And I can also drill down as well into these numbers. So now, as we can see, everyone, I was able to go through and build out a quick operation report that consists of dynamic data and complex data, right, from multiple tables. And I was able to go through and easily quick and pick some measures and dimensions and build out this report in about less than 5 minutes or so, right? So that's the key benefit of being able to go through and having something like Gen Analytics with these out-of-the-box projects, especially if you have multiple data sources, or even if you're using Power BI. And speaking of Power BI, we're going to flow into that now. So I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to pull up my Power BI application, and we're going to talk a bit about how Jet complements Power BI. So just to kind of get into Power BI a bit, right? Just to kind of show you how with Jet Analytics, you can easily go in and build out a report or dashboard without having to have a dedicated source to write and build out queries for reporting. So right, Power BI. It's amazing. And it's important to understand that Power BI, it's a data visualization application, right? It provides that great front-end experience, but where most end users are going to have a challenge, everyone, is with that back-end data model, right? Whenever you're going through and you're tying together the relationships between all the different tables and fields to really go in and get that dimensionality inside of Power BI. So unless you're using a tool like Jet Analytics, you'll likely need a dedicated resource to go in and write and build out queries to be able to report in something as powerful and complex as Power BI to get the dashboard visual that you are desiring. So I'll show you what it looks like to kind of point Power BI at the cubes opposed to raw data, and how easy it is to take that setup and go through and build out a dashboard using the same concept that we did in Excel with the measures and dimensions. So here, I want to go through and I want to get my data, and I'm going to go to my analysis services, right? And of course, I'm in my demo environment, so I don't have much credentialing to do. And it's going to bring me to my navigator where I can navigate and I can go through and I can pick the cubes I want, right? And we're going to go back to our sales cubes, and we're going to go through and build another sales report, but I'm going to do it a dashboard more so. So now, we kind of see the same visual that we saw in Excel, right? We see our measures signified here by the calculator, I like to call it. So we have our first two sections there. And then we have our dimensions, right? Signified by the calendar pad, right? That's going to be everything else. So now let's go through and start to build out this report or this dashboard. And I'm going to use some sales measures here. So I'm going to pick sales. And I'm going to go find a dimension. And for this one, I want to do item category. And then I want to pick the visual, right? I want to pick how I want to see it. Let's pick a less convoluted visual. Here we go. And then I want to give that a home now. And then I'm going to repeat that step, everyone. I'm going to pick my next measure. I'm going to do sales. But this time, I want to see salesperson. I want to see who's doing what, right? So I'm going to pick a visual. I like this visual. And then we're going to give it a home. Then we're going to give it a home. And then we're going to repeat that a couple more times. We're going to go to sales. Then I'm going to go to posting date. And then I want to pick a visual. Let's come with it. Let me give that a home. And then let's go through and pick some quick KPIs, everyone. I'm going to go through and I'm going to do profit. I want to see it in the figure. Give this one a home. And then let's go through and do profit percentage as our final one. Pick how I want to see it and give it a home. And then of course, everyone, right? We are building a dashboard. So this would not be complete without, let me get this out of here. The famous map. Then we're going to give this map a home. And I can go through and I can filter through. And as we can see, everyone, I've built out a quick optimized dashboard that I can filter through, right? And I didn't have to rely on any IT source. I was able to go through and pick those measures and those dimensions and identify how I wanted to see those figures and start to create my dashboard, my dynamic dashboard, more importantly. And again, essentially put all of this information here in plain English for you, right? We kind of know that whenever we're building a dashboard with Power BI, it absolutely does not look like this. So this is, again, that benefit of having something like Power BI pointing at the actual analysis cubes opposed to raw data, everyone. So now I want to stop for our second poll question. Emily, if you can bring that up for me. Thank you, thank you. So everyone, how much more effective do you think your upgrade of Power BI experience will be with something like General Analytics assisting you? Hey, I love that. We have a lot, some that are coming in at a lot more effective. That is outstanding feedback, everyone. And I also want to take the time to mention now, while you all are taking the time to answer this question, everyone, I want you all to be thinking about more questions as we transition into our Q&A portion of the presentation. And we'll give this one about 30 more seconds before we transition to the next slide. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to answer that poll. So now, everyone, now I want to take the time while we are approaching our last final 15 minutes on the call to take the time, everyone, to again think about some questions that you'd like to ask while we're on the presentation and drop them in the Q&A section, right? We have myself and Kari here as well, to where we can kind of go through and answer as many of those questions as possible while we're on the call. And thank you, Kari, for answering those questions that are currently in the chat box. And we'll give everyone about 60 seconds or so, maybe 120, maybe 2 minutes before we see if more questions start to pop in. I think looks like everyone's gotten their questions in. And of course, right, everyone, please take note of my contact information here. In case there are any questions that wanted to pop up, in case you wanted to evaluate or want to see a demonstration of the product, or if I see someone say they wanted a quote, we can definitely talk about that as well.
Yeah, and Bryan, Karia, I don't know if this would be helpful or not, but for the people who will be watching the recording, maybe it would be helpful to read off the questions and the answers so that they have some
Absolutely.
context.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I see we have 3 questions here. 2 of them came from Miss Kathy. Thank you, Miss Kathy. You mentioned that you like a BizView quote. I see that Kari mentioned she was going to give you her information. Yes, Kari, you can please, or even Miss Kathy, please reach out to myself as well. And we can definitely talk about what that evaluation path looks like and start to get some figures in front of you to help you evaluate that. And I see Miss Michelle, you mentioned global dimensions. What about the additional dimensions beyond the 2 global? And Kari mentioned you can bring in as many global dimensions. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Michelle, you can bring in as many as you have in your ERP again. And I'll probably overemphasize this, especially on the end of the call. If that information lives in your ERP, Jet's going to give you everything you need to go through and extract that information successfully and easily as possible inside of Excel. And I think that is all of our questions, Emily.
Yes, I don't see any more coming in. So I guess we will kind of walk towards the wrap up here. Thank you so much, Bryan and Karia, for being here. Thank you, everyone who came to the webinar. A reminder that you will get an email with the recording, and that will also be available on YouTube for you to view whenever you want. Share it with whoever you want. And you can always reach out to us at contact your client service representative, contact us at support@savantis.com, and we can help you move forward, ask all the questions that you have. We can answer them. Yep, I think that's about it. Have anything else, Karia or Bryan, that you want to cover?
That is it for me, everyone. Again, as Emily expressed, right? Thank you again for taking the time to sit in on our webinar today as we showed you how to future-proof your reporting with Reports and Gen Analytics. Again, please take note of my contact information there, and I look forward to connecting with you all in the near future. Again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great one.